What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. In today's video, I'm going to quickly explain to you how you could have taken $10,000 and turned it into $68,400 following all my stock picks on Twitter at Try Small Biz. And what are the CEOs of Muln and MCOM doing, diluting at all-time lows? And what role are the bots playing, aka AI, in helping to destroy shareholder value? All that and more coming right up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up on the 2 o'clock hour. 2 o'clock. Yeah, 2 o'clock. We don't edit around here. Yeah, I'm leaving that in. Sorry, Ma. It's the 2 o'clock hour. Hey, it's the 2 o'clock hour. Last trade on TTOO 0738. So they obviously flushed the stops at 075. I said to have your rebuy orders at 7.5 to 8. So it looks like they're going to retest that low yesterday of what? 0699. But if you caught the open, and I will get to the evisceration of David, the CEO of Muln, and the one and only Salvatore who runs MyCom into the ground, but I want to briefly state to you that word on the street is I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I've been trading the stock market for 30 years. Half of that as a stockbroker from 1993 to 2007, where I went broke. But if you caught the movie, The Big Short, I was living in South Florida. I actually knew the real Leo DiCaprio in another movie. I'll tell you a video on that another day. But, wow, I digress. I know what I'm talking about. I got wiped out in 2007 and 8, but I saw the massive collapse in the real estate market. I had tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands, when you include my clients, of NASDAQ 100 puts that expired worthless about 4 or 5 months before the big collapse. Otherwise, this guy right here would have made about $4.1 million in cash, and you wouldn't be looking at me right now. And for some of you, that's a blessing. But as I said at the open, if you'd have put $10,000, and many of you put $100,000 or more, you would have made 584% on your money, and that's a fact. 116 winners, average gain about 30%, average hold slightly more than a month because we're carrying pigs like MULN and MCOM. So one more time before I cover those two stocks. If you honestly believe, as some of you do, that $2 a day for all of the commentary on Bitcoin, when it hit 30,000 and failed to hold, I told you it was going lower. And I'm telling you right now, it's probably going to retest 24.5 and then 22.5, where it better hold or there's big trouble in crypto land. But in terms of the S&P 500, virtually every other thing other than a tiny window for 2.5 months when we were down 42% and we had premium clients that were bailing left and right, many dozens of them. Some of them got real nasty and said I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. And I told many of you that were watching these videos, I said, you wait. I am going to dig our ass out of this minus 42% hole. And that's exactly what I did, because as of right now, 2:02 in the afternoon, we are up 4.7% after being down minus 42. How is that? We just racked up in the pre-market CRKN, sold it at $27.75 for an 89% profit, bringing our 7-week total to plus 295%. So yeah, when I get irritated, annoyed, and pissed off because I decide to wear my heart on my sleeve, when people are bailing or saying really nasty things about me in public, I'm not going to keep it to myself. That's why we're only going to have 300 premium members. There's 2 slots available. We're at 298 because we had a mass exodus for the door when we increased the price based on massive amounts of relative value that are going to be added. Discord, Facebook group, stock texting, YouTube short videos, and more. But if you think $2 a day for almost 600% returns in the last 15 months, with the S&P up 8.1% to be exact, if you think that's a lot, then you need to get the fuck off this channel, log into your account at trysmallbiz.com and cancel it, because I want 300 men and women of every shape, size, color, sexual, and political persuasion who can take a fucking punch, who understand that 20, 30, or in rare cases, 40% drawdowns in small caps are normal. But if you're doing business with somebody like myself who's charging you $2 a day for all this data, the pics, the commentary, the promotion, and all the shit that's about to triple my workload, then you are in the right place. You just have to be willing to let me be me, because I can promise you guys this. As AI is about to swallow up this world, and you can already see it on YouTube with all these videos that are by the same voice, right? All these channels, it's the same monitor. That's AI. 90% of the content in the next 2 or 3 years, mark my words, last trade on TT000703, MCOM 28, and Muln at 6279 at or near all-time lows in those, and actually in all 3 of those cases. But AI is going to take over the entire world, and guys like me are going to be a delicacy. You're going to be screaming, if you're not already, in the next 12 to 24 months, where are the real people at? Where's the raw, real, uncut, unedited motherfuckers that'll tell me exactly what's going on straight from the heart? It's right here. You mark my words. So I'm telling you right now, if it's me, I get a premium membership. There's 2 left available. When we hit 300, the system automatically cuts off. If you try to enter your credit card, it's denied. If you enter it and you get in, obviously, it's $299 or less. And those people are going to get one hell of a show over the next 20 or 30 years or beyond. So, simply put, when it comes to David at Muln and Sal at MCOM, and we may as well throw in Lion Larry, you know, the fat ass that I said belongs back in jail in yesterday's video. And yeah, I quadrupled down on that. The same guy who taunted us and the SEC now, 2 months ago, that a $10 billion deal with the Saudis, you know, the ones that were protecting them, riding them around in private limousines. And that was when it was in between, of course, private government projects when he was working on a drone. But if it wasn't that, he was probably talking to his publicist about a fucking Hollywood movie that's supposedly been in the works for the last 5 years. In other words, he is absolutely one of the most full of shit motherfuckers I've ever seen. So the question would be, at all-time lows in both cases, why are we here? Why the hell are we throwing good money after bad when you just made 297%, 95 to be exact, in a half a dozen or more other stocks? That's a very good question. That is a very good question. I want to emphasize one thing before I talk about the bots and why BlackRock and all these institutions that are loading up on Mullins, it's absolute mirage. It's fictitious. It's not what you need to be paying attention to. All you Mullinaniacs, it reminds me of the Be Big fam. You remember them? They went down with the Titanic. They lost 99.9%, buying into some felon who was arrested last November for his role in running MoviePass into the ground. Then they go out and buy the National Enquirer, and I'm talking about BBIG, which they have not paid for yet, and they still haven't filed their fucking earnings going back over a year. The same blind, walk the plank nonsense, drink the Kool-Aid, and make another batch is in Mullen right now. If I could possibly get through to just a tiny handful of you, I am long the stock. I bought my average down to just over $1 on Mullen, about 86 cents on MCOM. So I'm down, let's call it 40 to 50% in both. And even though that is the case, we are still up 584%, up over 200% net of those 2 pigs in the last 7 weeks. But you must be able to look at your investment and say, listen, with much of NASDAQ, including Apple, for example, at all-time highs, when you have a stock at all-time lows seemingly every other day, something's wrong. What's wrong, in my opinion? 20% of it is naked selling, which I'll cover in a second. 80% of it is piss-poor execution and massive amounts of dilution. Look at Mullen, more dilution in a filing 2 days ago and more extension. Why is it at another low at 63 cents? What is it, down like a nickel every fucking day? The reason for that is another delay. They had more vehicles now that are being pushed out into the first and second quarter of 2024. David has been running Mullen into the ground, including 5 other companies that went to, you guessed it, 0 since 2014. Have they delivered any vehicles of any significance and gotten paid by a retail customer? Answer, no. And they're running almost all of their orders through Randy Marion. What's to say there's not a deal on the QT? Yeah, I'll say that there's a $279 million backlog, but I have no real intention, and this is just a possibility of actually paying for all that vehicle. There's a reason why, my friends, hear me. There's a reason why the stock keeps going lower. If it's me, I don't put any more money in either one of these two stocks. These are the slimiest lack of respect for their shareholder value that I have ever seen. And I could go on and on about all three of these clowns, some of which, perhaps maybe even all, belong in jail. Do not buy any more of the stocks until they show you what? Signs of life. Make them run 20 or 30%. Make them show you that they haven't diluted the hell out of the stock in the last several days. And then maybe, just maybe, you buy some more, and maybe, just maybe, it'll actually run. All right, in closing, the bots and firms like BlackRock that are actually blowing smoke up your ass. I said this in another video, and again, this comes from experience. I was in the trenches for 15 years. You trust absolutely nothing you see and zero of what you hear. None of this half of it. They're all full of shit. They're all lying. They're all cheating. They're all stealing. It's all about probabilities and X's and O's. They've got these PhDs, and this includes Goldman Sachs, on site to decipher, okay, if we dupe the street into thinking that we're buying a shit ton of Muln, for example, and there's over 200 institutions that own it. If we buy 4 or 5 million shares, that's what? Just keeping it simple, $3.5 million. But we're going to immediately turn on our bots, our high frequency traders, and short this motherfucker into oblivion. And because it's buy and sell, buy 100,000, short a 500,000, buy 200,000, short 1 million, and it's in and out, in and out, and in and out. It's very hard for the SEC to catch these guys, because as soon as they come a knocking and they say, look, we have reason to believe that you're illegally naked short selling Mullen or MCOM or any of the other penny stocks that we're currently involved in, TTOO, all BlackRock and or any of the other short firms like a Hindenburg has to do is say, wait a second, here's our ledger. We're long 4.5 million shares. Yeah, we've been buying all the way down. We're getting hit too. What they're not going to tell the SEC is that they're high frequency traders, and that's 2/3 of all the volume, much of it in the dark pools at this point, is that they've been shorting the living shit out of it with their algorithms that have no thoughts, no ego, no feelings whatsoever. So when you see massive moves up, like in CRKN on a $50 million deal, and by the way, if you add up 5 contracts with CRKN, that totals well over $300 million. Annualize that, the stock right now back all the way to 15 cents, where I rebought it again, is insanely undervalued. Why? It's the bots, in my opinion. The massive moves higher in TTOO in the pre-market. I was sharing photos this morning as high as 12 cents a share, only to see it throughout the day get smashed all the way down to 7 cents as we speak, which is at or near an all-time low. So what's going on? Some dilution. Their market cap is actually listed at less than $2 million right now. That is not accurate. They've been diluting. I think it was 5.4 million shares. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. That was filed yesterday. There's probably another 10 to 20 or 30 million shares that have come in because they actually need to dilute in order to get their market cap up to some degree. However, the filing that they made yesterday or the day before, let's call it, with the FDA, they've got 28 days to respond. So if 80% of the time there is a favorable response, and this has to do with this massive fungal infection that's going all around the hospital scene, they've got a potential test for that. 80% of the time with the type of filing that TTOO made, let's call it 2 days ago, comes back favorable. So if it comes back in the next 28 days, right now you can buy it at 071, that they got a favorable ruling. This is already traded at 15 cents and higher, 5 times now in the last 10 days. So the moral of the story, you buy the dip that's being exacerbated by the machines, that is being run by these institutions that are smoke and mirrors with tiny long positions. They'll say to themselves, okay, we'll invest $3 million to make $30 million on the short side. And even if the SEC comes along and goes, we caught you, we'll give them a $2 million fine. So what's that mean? I guess we netted about $25 million. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, always remember, we have 3 premium slots remaining. That I love you, and I thank you so much for watching. There's 3 left.